We washed the car up the first day. We spent about 2.5 hours washing it up. We did foam cannon spray, did the rims first. We were super careful with the rims because they're carbon ceramic. Got those cleaned up with GN foam. That was safe for it. Bagged the wheels up, did foam cannon on the vehicle. Then went through about 3 rounds of iron decon, came to the contact wash, felt the vehicle up. It didn't have any bonded on contaminants, which is not surprising for, Ferrari that's probably been maintained pretty well, or at least trained professionals have been touching it. We're actually gonna do the paint correction first with paint protection film, and then we are gonna do the ceramic coating. Why are we doing paint correction before ceramic coating? Because when we put the ceramic coating on top, it's gonna lock in any swirls or any scratches. So you're looking at this vehicle going, wow, it's super shiny, it's super amazing. Scan grip inspection light. We found a few deeper scratches in the back here, along these haunches here. That's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So got a little bit of a game plan already. We're gonna use Rupes white pad. We're picking the white pad because that's the finest possible pad. It's least aggressive method possible. That's the name of the game today. That's what we do on all the vehicles that come into the shop. It doesn't have to be the car doesn't have to be well into 6 figures to treat it right. We do the same thing with your Tesla, your Mazda, or your Honda. There's no sense, we're not gonna just go grab the rotary and the wool pad and the compound and just start cutting paint to cut paint. There's no need for that. We need to figure out what the car actually needs. So we have to do a couple test sections on it. We'll start with the minimum amount of cut, not the minimum amount of work, but the minimum amount of cut. That's gonna be the safest thing to do for this vehicle here. So we're gonna use the white pad, which is super fine, and we're gonna use the GN primer. The GN primer is the lightest polish we have in the shop. If that works, that's great, we're off to the races. I like the GN primer because it's an ultra-fine polish and it's compatible with the coating systems that we use, since we use coatings in here. I mean, I figured let the chemist, that's what they're gonna pay the big bucks for. They've already figured this out. So we'll do white pad GN. We'll do a small test section. We'll take it down. We'll get the scan grip light out. If it looks good, boom, we're off to the races. There's nothing finer we can do at this point in the shop. If that doesn't work, then we'll get a fresh yellow pad, and then we'll go into a different polish that has a little more cut to it. But I don't know. Well, let's just see what happens here. So before we even start getting the polisher to the car, I took some of this is a 3M body tape that they use when they refinish cars, when they repaint cars. So took some tape. There's some rubber trim right there. So we want to protect up that trim in case any polish or sling gets on it. We'll protect that again. That's something we do on all the vehicles we do. It doesn't have to be a Ferrari to get that done. If that's your Tesla, your Honda, your Kia, process, following a set of steps that we know that works. So, I'm not freaking out today that, oh my God, this is a Ferrari, what are we gonna do? That we've worked enough of these cars down with this process that we know, hopefully at some point paint is paint. We're gonna guarantee, we're gonna drive some great results here. Okay, so we ran the first test section through with the white Rupes pad and the GN primer. It really did a nice job. There's a couple faint scratches still in there. I'm gonna take it down. We're gonna change up. We're gonna try the yellow pad with the GN primer because I really like that finish, and we're gonna see what the results that gives us. There's still, I think they're light scratches, so we're gonna step up. We're gonna stay with the yellow pad. We're gonna put a fresh yellow pad on, and we're gonna try Sonex Perfect Finish next. Within the paint correction systems, the different color pads represent the thickness, not the thickness, the hardness, and that correlates to the hardness and the density of the foam, which correlates to the cutting power. So we used the finer cutting pads that has a little more cut to it. So now we're gonna step up the chemical, and we're gonna use Perfect Finished. Okay, so we're back. So we just tested out Sonex Perfect Finish. Brand new Rupes yellow pad on the machine. I went ahead and I did the test sections. I wiped it down with GN Prep. That gives us a ultimately true comparison as to what we're doing. The Sonex Perfect Finish took more of those scratches out that the GN primer wouldn't get, and that's to be expected. Gian, the primer isn't advertised or sold as a, it's advertised and sold as a really fine polish. So fine polish means it's not going to get that. What I'm looking for at this point is I see that we got the scratches out, but now I'm looking to see if we have the gloss level that we want. I would expect in the center section to have the highest gloss level because it's the finest pad, finest polish. And in my professional opinion here, I can't see a difference in the gloss level. So we're gonna say that 4 passes, maybe 5 or 6, if it needs to spot in a little bit with Sonic's perfect finish is gonna be the right thing for this. Some different schools of thought on this here when you're doing paint correction on these vehicles. Any of the vehicles, it's always a fine line. How much are you gonna chase? What are you gonna get out with the scratch wise? I don't think anything scratches any wet sanding that's needed on this particular vehicle. It's yeah. Can you polish scratches out? Can you wet sand scratches out? Yeah, absolutely, you sure can. You got to keep in mind that you're minimizing, you're taking down the clear coat. Clear coats aren't thin on these new cars. We're talking microns at that level. So I'm of the school of thought that let's take the least amount of paint off the vehicle as possible. You might have a scratch or 2 in there. And, for some people, they can't get that. They live. But I would rather have that than you leave a few more sessions. I mean, this car, you're going to see this car 50, 60, 70, 80 years down the road. So let's think about that long term. It's not that, we're going to go compound it, knock a whole bunch of paint off, and 4 months later come back and compound it again and keep doing that. I mean, these are heirloom vehicles. I mean, this guy is going to pass it down to his family, sons, grandkids are going to get them. The next collector that picks up this vehicle, he's going to be real happy that the car was maintained properly. So in my mind, I would rather have a light scratch or 2 in there that you can barely ever see, that, the top 0.1% of people would ever even notice that, then go nuts and take all this paint off this vehicle that you don't need. So that's just a conversation that you should be having with the person who's doing the ceramic coating for you. What are they doing? What are you paying for? And what do they think about? So yeah, they can do a whole bunch of work for you, but what are the consequences of doing that work? Sometimes it's not always good. So just some more stuff to think about here. And maybe people always say, well, you're taking shortcuts, or you're not doing, we're not doing an 85-step paint correction on this vehicle. Well, no, we're not doing an 85-step paint correction on this vehicle because what we just determined, it doesn't need it. It really doesn't. The guy is going to be happy. The vehicle is going to look great. And we're ultimately doing the right thing for this vehicle, that it can last for years to come, and the paint's still going to be there. So those are my personal thoughts on paint correction, my personal thoughts on how things should be done. You're more than happy to disagree with me, but that's how we do things here in my shop at Immaculate Paint Protection. Check our YouTube channel, check our other wash video out, the 2-bucket method, how to wash your car after ceramic coating. If you're in the Northeast, if it snows, snow removal, those nasty brushes, that will scratch to hell. I mean, you're not gonna see this Ferrari in the snow, let's just be honest about that. But all the same current principles apply. Improper wash method, if you're not using the grit guard, if you're not using the 2-bucket method, you got contamination on the car that you didn't rinse off and now you're grinding it over. Clay bar, if the clay bar is done improperly, that can scratch, that can swirl up the paint. Microfiber towels, whatever you're touching the paint with, if you got dirty towels, nasty towels, old terry cloth towels, I mean, people think they're doing the right thing, but they're not. Going to the automatic car wash with those big nasty swirly brushes, those are just swirl-o-matic. They're gonna tear the paint up. Not literally tear the paint off the car, but they're gonna scratch and swirl the paint. So yeah, can you fix a car? Can you get those swirls and scratches out? Sure, we've done it here before. We can wet sand it, we can get the rotary buffer out, we can do all this work, and we have. We prefer not to. We prefer that the cars are taken care of, right? So my personal vehicle, my wife's car, she spent a lot of money to buy it when it was brand new. But it's only been washed one time by somebody other than myself. And that was at the dealership, and I walked back in the wash bay, and the guy was smiling, just having the time of his life, because he enjoyed washing cars. So yeah, I was pretty cool with that, So he did the right method. He had 2 buckets out. Point is, I've only polished that car once in 5 years, and it still looks great. I mean, there might be a little, haze in there from 5 years of washing, but because nobody 99.9% of the people would go look at that vehicle and go, wow, that looks amazing. So when you have the paint correction done, just take care of the vehicle, make sure it's maintained the right way. If you're gonna buy a used vehicle, take a look at the paint, inspect it, see that it's, something like this, if you have a detailer you trust, if you have somebody's gonna do the ceramic coating, maybe have them take a look at the vehicle, inspect it for you. There's some nasty tricks that they do at the dealerships where they'll put a high fill wax in, which shines at the vehicle. What that does is it fills in all the scratches and the swirls, and then you come and you wash it once or twice and all the wax goes away and the swirls come back in. Unfortunately, that happens. It's not a great time when you figure that out. So something like that would make sense when you do a pre-vehicle inspection report on that. If you're buying another vehicle, check it on the dealership lot. Sometimes you can just see the swirls and the scratches into it right away. Some of the stuff can be fixed if it's down through the base coat, and you can pull your finger into it and scratch it, and you're not going to fix that. Well, that's not going to buff out, as they say, so that's maybe a respray. But just some stuff to think about. So if you take care of the vehicle, you wash it yourself, you take it through a touchless car wash, you don't get super nasty with it. All this paint correction stuff, it's necessarily maybe do it once, twice in his life, and everything is good. It'd be like if you went to the heart surgeon and he said, go ahead and, eat cheeseburgers and a lot of bad diet and drink your face off and go smoke and just have a generally unhealthy lifestyle, because in 20 years you're going to have a heart attack, and don't worry, we can fix that. We can go and do heart surgery. It just wouldn't really be ethical. So that's the same way. We can do paint correction here, and we can polish the swirls and we can polish the scratches off, but it's not the right way to do it. So the proper technique is, let's prevent this from happening. So that's why taking care of the vehicle, 2-bucket method wash, proper wash methods, it's all doable. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a heart surgeon. You can, in fact, come on in. I'll show you how to wash the car. But just proper maintenance will avoid all this extensive work on the vehicle. So, I like doing the paint correction, but it pains me when we have to do it, because that just means the car wasn't loved. It wasn't maintained. Somebody before didn't really care about it. So, if you're here, you're watching this, you probably care about your car. You think these cars are cool. So check out the other videos, and we'll give you some more information. So this section is interesting here. This is this body line here along the door. I really started looking at it. It's weird. It's just in this section here. It's almost, I'm guessing this is either microfiber haze that from a compound, all these repetitive curly cues, boom, boom, kicking through there. So the polish is not knocking that down. This was probably thrown in by a compound. It's weird, it's just in this section here. So I stepped up to the cut and finish, and I'm probably gonna go up on the pad. This is one of the downfalls of using the microfiber pads, which you don't use, is it throws in that haze, that then you have to chase that out. So hopefully that's the only section on the vehicle that it is, but it wasn't on the door. So we want to get this out before we put the ceramic coating on, because if we put the ceramic coating on top of it right now, even though it's clean, and it's just not going to look right. You're always going to see those swirls in that, and that's what you don't want to see. It's looking so much better. I don't know if we can focus in on that or not. There's still some stuff in there. We'll chase that down one more time. But the majority of it's gone. All the nastiness from dual action, which refers to the machine, dual action microfiber haze. So they were using a microfiber cutting pad and some kind of compound. The fact it's not on the rest of the door, I'm really gonna guess that what happened is the guy just forgot to come back in and do this section and forgot to polish it off, and maybe the boss came in and started screaming at him that he had to get the car done or something, or it's maybe just a minor oversight. I don't know. It's not the end of the world. We fixed it, no big deal. Or so, but this, things like that happen sometimes, and you gotta figure it out and fix it when it comes into you. So I'll hit that one more time. One more pass of polish. Ooh, Rupes pad on a flex machine. I know somebody's laughing at that, but it works. We used a smaller machine to get into these contours here. I was worried about cutting down on it along this body line. It's polished. I know it's gonna be safe, but again, want to minimize time. time and heat and friction along these body lines here. We're not thinking about ourselves on this job. We're thinking about, you know, the next guy in 50, 60, 70 years down the road when this car is that family heirloom showpiece someplace. It's still gonna be looking great and you're not gonna see burnt lines on it. So that's what we were doing there. One more pass with that. We'll finish up top door sections. Then I'll lay on my side and not fall asleep, and we'll catch underneath the door there with the Flex cordless. So that's the machine we're using right now. Welcome back. So it's actually the third day now. We stayed around a little later last night. The Mazda, it's gone. Client came in, was super happy with that job, and we still have to final polish pass in the scallop area there. Still need to come down and polish that out. And we need to get under the door there, and then we'll come in and get the rocker. We've done all the test passes yesterday, so I'm pretty confident that today we'll move along. Probably won't stop and use the camera as much, but we'll jump on. Really, the main course of action today is the Miele yellow Rupus pad and Sonex Perfect Finish. I went ahead, again, I double checked the vehicle. I didn't see any additional, more I think about it, I'm really almost 99% certain that was microfiber haze from a DA machine. So I'm not seeing it on the rest of the vehicle, so I'm thinking whoever got to this car just simply forgot to hit that. We're gonna jump ahead, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna do the door, we're gonna do the roof. We'll double check the roof on this. Being that it's black and a solid color, that's just buffer dust. We'll see if we can get that out with the Geon primer. Being that it's a straight, solid color black, that's a little trickier. So we'll get into that, or we'll come through here and we'll tape off these vents before we get up on top of here. That's direct access to the engine bay, and we'll get to it. All right. I went ahead and I taped off, put some tape along this body line, this ridge here. The ridges are always areas that's where you're gonna burn through the paint first. I'm fairly confident that we're not gonna do anything bad, you know, at this point, and I'm doing all I can to stay off these body lines here. We're just throwing some tape along here. This isn't for the 50-50 shot. I don't like doing 50-50 shots. We're just gonna protect that edge now. I'm gonna come in with the 3-inch machine because I got a little more control over it, and use a different product. I don't know if you can see that haze right through there. It's good on this side, but because I got to get right to there. So we need to be careful along the body line is what I'm trying to say. So a little extra time, just stopping and doing things right. So this is a little bit out of order here. It's like polished underneath. This door dives in and reverses back underneath, so it's almost, everything comes up. In the wash process, I felt I couldn't feel any bonded on contaminants, but as I polished it down, there's some spots or some staining in the paint that didn't polish out. So spot treated it with Geon tar, was still there. Spent probably the last 20 minutes. I went back, I got the clay bar, got the clay lube, and luckily it's coming off with the clay bar, so I'm gonna have to clay this down. I got some just distilled water here in a spray bottle. I'll spray that off. We'll wipe it down, repolish it again. Things are typically symmetrical, so I'll jump over to the other side. I'll clay bar that down. We're gonna put PPF on the carbon fiber, and I believe the PPF for the rocker panels runs up into this area. So I wanna get the stains out now. I don't wanna put PPF over the stains if they can come out. Again, probably an honest mistake on my part during the oversight during the wash process. I mean, it's not going to get to the customer, but you know, next time I need to get the light out and inspect underneath and see what it is. Should have taken care of this during the wash process, but it's not the end of the world. We're fixing it now, and we'll move on. So there's a piece for the carbon fiber that's going to get PPF on it, and then the other piece rolls up, comes down in here under the door, up into here. So you can see we got all this clean down through here. We're gonna have to jump over on the other side. There's just some spots you have to get your head down on the ground and to see it and look at it. So nobody would ever see that, and if they do see that, they're probably laying on the ground looking at your car. So the first thing you do is you say, stop, ma'am, sir, what's going on? Are you having a medical emergency? Because nobody's ever gonna lay on the ground and look at that. It can be removed, it should be removed, because once we put the PPF on, we can't get to it.
For packages, pricing, and more, visit us at ImmaculatePaintProtection.com.